And we're live. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. Um, he'd like to call himself a guest, but a definite uh, friend to the room, this virtual room, Danny Thompson. Danny, how you doing?
You know, Ted, it's always fun. I'm still a guest, no matter how many times I do the show. So still a
Stop.
guest.
Stop it. You know, you're not a guest. But Danny could be found on various outlets. But you can find him on Twitter, scrolling at the ticker at the bottom of the screen at Danny, the number three Thompson on Twitter is a great follow. Danny, before we even get started, um, let's get it out now. Where is everywhere? Whether it's your video, your written work, your spoken word, um, if you're doing any type of musical projects on the side. I know you're kind of like the master and jack of all trades. So where can we find your stuff? Let's from
Well,
the out.
you uh basketball side is still around the association.com, as well as the 3 point conversion. I write multiple topics and multiple sports on that side of the world. You can find my my weekly show, which is bi-weekly, which is called Beyond the Buzzer. It's on Zingo TV channel 198, as well as Facebook, soon to be YouTube and other platforms. Myself and the student of the game, Kyle Nash, as well as Tuesday nights from 9 to 10 on same channel, Zingo TV. It's also a show called Talking Hoops with my main man, myself, and Deshaun Tate. So we got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, we can see. We can definitely see because multifaceted, talented, not just a basketball guy. So you know how they say more than an athlete, more than a basketball analyst. So I want to just do a quick PSA for our young folks that are out there. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do all your loved ones a favor. Put on a mask. I know
Mhm.
people want to put the politics behind it and everything else like that. Do yourself a favor, put your mask on. This COVID-19 coronavirus is serious. And if we look at where it is trending, it's trending towards the younger folks. Before it was historically, when this started, oh, it's, if you're older, you're 50 and older, you're 60 and older. Or if you're even, my age and above, um, you would be highly susceptible to it and where if you have any type of underlying conditions. But we're seeing more and more where it's younger folks that are out there, whether you're out there protesting, whether peacefully or the other stuff, or you're just at an event and you don't have the proper ppe, you're not wearing the proper ppe. um, you got to think about your safety first. It's not about politics. It's not about, I mean, and I say that, Danny, because 3 weeks ago I was in North Carolina and it was like a different world from living in New York, being holed up here for 3 months, masks, gloves to get into any type of establishment. You go down
Mhm.
there and there's no mask, no, I don't want to say there was no anything, but it was really loose. And now we're seeing these states that are starting to spike.
Mhm.
So it's and you happen to be currently residing in one of the states that's spiking, and it's a shame because, like I said, we were the epicenter for a good month and a half in New York. So to see
Mhm.
this stuff happen, so young people, old people, everyone wear a mask. The virus is still out there, still killing people. Every time you can pull up any of one of your favorite sites, news sites, or just any type of site review information, there's going to be some type of coronavirus widget on there where you're going to see 120,000. You
Yep.
know that number continues to climb, so we got to be smart out there, and let's not fall for the rhetoric. Danny, thank you for sitting here for the PSA. I felt like it was heavy on me to have to speak to it, but we'll get into a couple of the topics. We'll shift around here, and you, as for me, I'm the facilitator, so I guess I'm the in your favorite sport, I'm your point guard.
All right.
A little bit meatier than a point guard, so I'll say a point forward.
I mean, very Anthony Mason like. I got you.
There you go. Um, we'll go with the first topic for you, and it's Bubba Wallace. A lot of discussion, a lot of a lot of people that are not familiar with NASCAR were introduced to Bubba Wallace a few weeks ago while if they were watching CNN or if they open up their phone or their browsers the next morning with Bubba Wallace mentioning get those Confederate flags out of here.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like a firestorm. And from him mentioning that to NASCAR embracing him and fully having his back, and to the noose being reported by NASCAR and FBI coming in, and then of course the whole backlash because everything is politics. What is your take? Where do you see Bubba Wallace in, let's say, the next 5 years?
I mean, I was just having this conversation with some folks earlier today. It's just that with Bubba Wallace, he has that ability right now because he has the attention of the nation, especially at a time where he's the only African American on the top level of stock car racing. He's the only African American driver that's a stock car racer. And so, in a time where America is, with Black Lives Matter, has now taken whole new precedence among everything in the country. It's at a higher level than it's been in years. Now, mind you, as African Americans, we've been going through this for decades upon centuries. We've gone through this.
All of our lives, all
of our lives, and the people's lives before us, and the people's lives for us. Going back, like I said, we're going back until we came over from Africa. So it's a battle that's been being fought, and now it's at a higher level and on a mainstream. And Bubba Wallace is trying to break into a sport that is generally Caucasian. NASCAR is a sport where not just the drivers, not just the pit crew people, not just the people that run NASCAR, the fans are not majority. They're almost all Caucasian. It is what it is in NASCAR. And he is trying to not only set new ground, but he is trying to break through the door. And there's two things that can happen. He can continue the way he's going, and it can change, like the Confederate flag coming down. That was one thing that was huge in NASCAR. That was a epic change in NASCAR. He can keep making these systematic changes, which is something that we all want in NASCAR. But until he wins that first race and maybe win that first championship, it will then transition itself into an even bigger legacy. So he's a hero and a cult icon, a cultural figure in the sports and also in NASCAR for what he's done already at what I think he's 24, 25 years old. Finishing second at the Daytona 500 back in February, up until what he's done now, he's already become a hero. And if he wins a race and then wins a championship on top of that, we're saying that he goes into levels, I would say, of a Tiger Woods. When I say he has the ability to transition an entire culture into a sport. Because I remember when Tiger Woods started catching fire, it made me, I was, in my teenage years, I wanted to pick up a golf club and be Tiger Woods. You go back and watch Bubba's interview on Monday after the race. And, it's only 5,000 people allowed at Talladega. Now, for those who've never been to Talladega, it's really one of the most, un-Black friendly places you're going to find. And when he did that post-race press conference, and you saw on Fox, you saw Black African Americans with Black Lives Matter shirts on. They said they're coming from Atlanta. They're cheering on.
Right.
This is only 5,000 people. Right. So imagine what they did to get those tickets. Imagine when he wins the race and you start seeing more people like us, Ted, going to NASCAR races. And then
Correct.
guess what? It's going to spark an entire generation of not just African American drivers, but African American pit crew members, African American um, crew chiefs. Every part of NASCAR will be infused with African Americans, and it brings a whole new light onto a sport that we haven't been a part of. It's and he has one. Like I said, he's already a hero. He's already going to be a legend. He's going to be an iconic figure. But to get to that, I say that legendary status, he's just got to win, and he's got to win a championship, at least a race or two, and stay competitive. You might not have to win championships, but you have to be a contender in every race that you're in. He's
Correct.
got to get to that point.
Correct. And if we weren't this in the middle of this pandemic, I mean, though it's the curve is flattening in New York, if this was 2021, they're going to be in Poconos next. I think that's the
Hmm.
next big race.
Yep.
That would be something I would go to attend and go to support.
It's funny. One of my favorite musicians, and a guy that I've spoken to on many occasions, Mike Phillips, legendary jazz musician. If you
Hmm.
don't know Mike Phillips, he's also the guy that plays at almost every single major sporting event with the saxophone, the national anthem. He's actually performing the national anthem at the Pocono race this weekend.
Right.
So you have to think, doors are opening for African Americans. When have you
Of
ever
course.
thought that you have an African American musician playing the national anthem at a NASCAR event?
Never.
It's only going to stream. NASCAR have been saying for years they've been wanting diversity in the sport. Now it's time for them to put up what they've been asking for. And I give NASCAR a lot of credit so far, even with the incident with the noose and that entire thing, how NASCAR immediately jumped into it, got the FBI involved within 12 hours to go ahead and go through this. Now, whatever they found out, it's a totally different topic, but the fact that NASCAR is acting swiftly with almost everything they've done is impressive among itself. But what Bubba is doing is transitioning a sport culturally, and I'm all for it.
In closing, I will say NASCAR needs a figure like Bubba Wallace. They
Hmm.
need it, like you said, if you want to have the diverse fan base, which everyone requires to grow their sport, then I think that's part of the reason why they jumped in so quickly to get in front of everything and to totally support one of their drivers. Um, they should definitely be commended. I mean, what the FBI found, what they found. It's one of those things where it's kind of similar to what Bubba said. A noose is a noose, whether it was there before or after, or put in while he was there. That's another thing. So, I will say NASCAR definitely they do get a thumbs up, and I do expect the fan base to continue to grow.
And can you only imagine how it's going to turn into when he gets that first victory?
Oh,
Because I'll be honest with you, Monday, watching the race Monday, when he took that lead with about 25, 30 laps left in that race, I'm sitting at home and I'm like, you gotta pull it out. I mean, you're on the edge of your seat. And I remember calling you. I'm like, are you
yes,
watching this?
yes, yes.
I'm
You
like, are you?
called me, and
I'm
I
like, are
turned
you?
to it.
I'm like, are you watching this? I'm like, he's right there with a chance to win the race.
And
And
the first thing I said to you was, you said it's on Fox, and I said it's on Big Fox or it's on FS2 or something like that. No, they're smart. They're gonna put it there on Big Fox because they want to put it on network TV. That's the way
mhm,
you grow it. Do you grow it? There's two different fan base. Well, not fan bases, but user base. Um, Cable subscribers versus network over the air TV. If something's going to be available to us for free, chances are we will turn to it. We will watch it. We will support it.
mhm.
So we'll segue quickly from there and we'll go into the Kobe Docuseries. What can you tell me about it? We put up a post. Um, Clutch Points is producing the docuseries from 2010, I guess, Kobe's last championship. Uh, you know, everything comes on the heels of The Last Dance. It's Kobe. We just lost Kobe. Um, do you have any insight on, outside of when they're going to make the show, this available and stuff like that?
I'm just as much as excited as you are about it. It's intriguing to watch Kobe Bryant behind the scenes. We got a chance to see Michael Jordan, at a whole different side of Michael. Now it's a different side for people who didn't follow Michael. Now the difference was this is the Last Dance was what, 20 years ago,
Yes.
25 years ago.
Mhm.
So we had a chance to see Michael 25 years after everything. Kobe, we lost Kobe earlier in the year, and but he hadn't been out of the game as far as NBA or playing wise for the last couple seasons.
Right.
So we didn't have a chance to see the Hall of Fame speech. That was something I was looking forward to in Springfield, the Hall of Fame speech.
Right.
So we hear stories, and the one thing with the Kobe docuseries is it's going to enlarge in Kobe Bryant on a bigger scale. If it couldn't be any bigger than what it is, it's going to be seen. I think by the time it's all said and done, it'll be much more. You'll understand why Kobe was the way he was. The same way we understood why Michael was so fixed on winning, and how it meant for him to win and what it did for him. So I'm excited, but I can't wait to see more details about it. It's the 2010 season. That was an interesting roster. That was a great series against the Celtics was that year.
Right.
So,
right.
Lakers Celtics rivalry. I want to. I can't wait to see it. When they start getting more information about it.
Gotcha. Well, I guess we can say ding dong, we're happy baseball is back, but I got to tell you that MLB versus the MLBPA was beyond ugly. I guess we get to see the inner workings of how dysfunctional they are. We're glad baseball is back for a 60-game baseball season. But Danny, why did it get to this point?
Players and owners are both greedy. It's just, it's not on the owners, it's not on the players. It's a combination of both. In a pandemic, in a time where everybody was looking for baseball to come out of it, you also have to realize baseball has been, baseball's fan attendance is what it is, but baseball, Ted, you remember, back in the days where you had hair, back in the 90s, baseball was the king of everything.
It was.
People. This is before the NFL took over. NFL was just a Sunday sport, but people followed baseball religiously for 162 games.
Yes.
The 94 strike happened, and what got people back into baseball was the home run chase 5, 6 years ago. Later after that.
I need to jump in there. The genetically infused home run chase. Okay.
Listen, at the time, we didn't know what it was.
Right.
Listen, we didn't know the turkey was injected till after we ate it. All right, so we had the home run chase, chasing Roger Maris. That got the entire country involved in it. We saw the 30 for 30. It was on every single nightly news show, and baseball was back. Baseball was back. And then baseball kind of fell to the wayside. And over the years, basketball and the NFL had passed baseball on the list. Baseball had every chance while the NBA was trying to figure out how to get themselves together, and football's in the off season. Baseball could have been the first sport to come back. They had multiple chances to get this done, and now they're starting July 24th or July 27th.
July 24th. Yeah.
You're six days before the NBA stretch run starts, and a whole 2 weeks after MLS starts in Orlando, which is around July 4th weekend. They had the opportunity. The part that hurts the most is, Ted, as we're enjoying, the 4th of July holiday, however we decide to enjoy it, whatever, in this climate, have we decided to enjoy the 4th of July holiday?
Mm-hmm.
Not to have baseball being played on the 4th of July is just
sacrilegious.
It's awful.
It is.
If anything, baseball should have restarted on the 4th of July. If you're going to wait this long, baseball should restart the 4th of July. For those who celebrate the 4th of July and you're eating a hot dog and a hamburger, you should be watching, the Yankees and Mets playing on the 4th of July. That's how this should have been. Now we're waiting to July 24th, and I'll be honest with you, I'm somewhere in the middle about this because I'm more interested in what happens in the bubble down in Orlando. Soccer has my intrigue, and the other part is I wonder who gets shut down first. That's what my guess is.
And that's a topic we'll get to later on, because but the question I will say to you is, if PGA can't get it right, and that is social distance or social distancing a sport as possible,
mm-hmm.
then what do we expect from these other sports?
We're coming back too soon. Maybe that might be it.
I remember you and I were talking maybe last week, and you were mentioning about the NBA and Ted. I'm excited, and I was telling you I'm not excited because I'm like, I don't think this is going to actually happen. I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just think that it will get to a point where there will be so many positive cases, or the location that these players are, currently at, potentially could be overridden, or let's just say if it spikes in that location, then what do?
AKA Florida. Mm-hmm.
Right. What do you do? And we're seeing that, originally the Mets and the Yankees were going to play in Florida. And now they're going to be at Citi Field and Yankee Stadium.
It's bad when the Yankees and Mets, who are already in Florida, say, you know what? We're going to pack up and we're headed back to New York. Like you mentioned earlier, the epicenter of all of this. We're going to go back.
Danny, 30,000 deaths in the state of New York.
The only sports head that has this right with everything going on is the sport no one talks about, which is the WNBA. Yes. They have a contingency plan.
Yes.
If IMG falls apart or what goes on in Florida falls apart, they have a secondary option. And Ted, who else is smart that no one's saying anything? The NHL.
Yes.
We don't know all we know is that they're going back the end of July.
Yep.
They ain't said where it's going to be played at.
Nope.
They're like, we're going to take this one step at a time.
Well, but it also tells you that their PA and the league and the commissioner are in lockstep with each other, because they understand it's about growing the sport. It's understand about, okay, if we don't do this, this is the amount of revenue we're going to lose. So it's about working together.
Agreed.
I brought up this topic the other day to you because it was buffoonery on a Saturday morning on Twitter. Like, you open up your Twitter and you see Clay Travis and Jason Whitlock clowning Mike Florio. And they were just going back and forth. You don't hire black writers. You don't do this. You don't do that. But I'm going to push that to the side. And I'm going to say Bill Simmons is on fire. He's on the defensive as of late.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's the whole thing. It's the same thing. How come you don't have any African-American writers? Do you not? And I think his comment was kind of like, this is a business. It's not an open mic night or something like that.
I saw a tweet the other day that kind of summarized the last couple of months of sports journalism. You got everything going on Outkick and ProFootballTalk. You got Bill Simmons and everything happened at the Ringer. You have Bleacher Report having their issues with stories. You have everything with SB Nation being bought out. You have Sports Illustrated falling apart.
Yes.
The real question is, what real sports outlets are out there that's legitimately left?
ESPN.
Okay, but ESPN is so top heavy of talent.
Yeah.
They're it's like professional wrestling. You got the championship. Like if it's WWE, for example, you got everybody chasing the WWE championship, and you got the lower folks, but you have no mid card. Nope. What made the WWF in the '90s? It wasn't the World Belt Championship belt. It was the Intercontinental Championship.
It was the Intercontinental Championship. Yes.
It's
when there was nothing better than Pedro Morales and Don Morocco going at it, putting on a show.
I mean, or even think about in the '80s with Steamboat and Flair. You have Bret the Hitman Hart. You got to think the Intercontinental Championship was the belt that sprungboards you to the WWE Championship. The most successful, the best wrestlers were all Intercontinental champions at one point. So ESPN and Fox do not have very many, especially ESPN doesn't have very many Intercontinental Championship type of players.
Right.
You got the A-listers. I mean, let's be honest. ESPN's A-listers are A-listers for a reason.
Right.
I agree. What happens is when you pay all the A-listers, it leaves to divulge the talent. In Bill Simmons' case, listen, it's been a growing problem. Now everything is being heightened by the number. The real funny question is, I can't remember African American journalists at the Ringer. I can't remember one.
No. And
Outkick, I don't remember anybody Outkick the coverage being black.
Nope.
I mean, you can pick on Mike Florio all you want to, but because Outkick adds Jason Whitlock does not mean you satisfy the African American quota anywhere.
They check the box. With hiring Whitlock. I guess. Or maybe not.
Listen, that's the type of thing you just drink. You just sip your water on and call it a day. But at the end of the day, Outkick before Jason Whitlock came on board, I don't remember African American journalists being on staff
or on the radio
or anywhere that Clay Travis can be found. But that's another story for another day.
I think we're devoid of what you were talking about prior to this, prior to your analogy on staffing at some of these sites, some of these startup sites, and the more known site like the Fansided and all this other stuff. When so many different sites, professional sites, pivoted to video, a lot of journalists lost their jobs. And if you didn't get cherry picked by the Athletic, then you're sitting there. I guess you're writing and you're getting paid based on words. But it's just funny. Like, to me, it seems like everyone is getting called out. From the Kimmels to this to that to Bill Simmons, and like I said, I think Travis was able to check the box, but everyone's being questioned because those African American journalists that are like NABJ, they don't get the call. So what do? They go to J school, and then what? They come out and what?
They get passed over. Every day, I'm on Twitter. I'm in a group chat with a super league talented group of African American journalists from all different realms. It's not just sports. They're all in the media somehow. And one of the things that we always do, that always comes up, is that it's just hard to find a job. It's hard to get an opportunity, and it's not a place where, if you're African American coming out of college, or like you said, coming out of J school, where are you going to go? The market is so flooded because these organizations are shutting down or laying off and just trying to buy cheap and go long. And all these experienced journalists are sitting out there. So, what do? Do you pay the experienced journalist that's going to bring clicks and people and viewers, or do you take a chance on a younger person? A lot of times they don't. And so, I mean, how do you fix the problem? I mean, it's one of two things, Ted. We can keep tearing things down and try to get people to understand that, or it might have to come to the point where African Americans need to start their own. But
You're
the
right.
thing with starting your own is we have to support your own.
You're right.
So it has to be, but the thing is, you need to have an understanding of the pros and the cons behind starting something that is fully fledged, let's just say African American based. You got to understand that it's going to be, some people are not going to like it. Some organizations aren't going to like it. Some will follow and they will always support. So you have to, outweigh both sides of it. But if we can't get in the door, the front door, sometimes you got to find ways to get through the door other ways and create your own door. Maybe it's that time where creating your own door for people who are like minded, who look the same, talk the same, who are people of color, African Americans, especially. It might be that time to kick that door open and open those doors for each other, and then at the same time supporting each other. Because if the mainstream doesn't want to do it, sometimes you got to go off the path to get to the goal at the end of the day.
You know what's so ironic that so I do now and then, but I do several different versions of this pod. And one of the pods we talk social issues, we talk a little politics also. And what we were talking about the other night was voting some of the career politicians out.
Mm-hmm.
And what it really does is infuses it with new blood. And I think it really ties into what you were just saying. You got to create your own outlets.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was I kind of looked at the undefeated as a vanity project,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're actually starting to do something with it after all
Mm-hmm.
these years with ESPN. So once again, not to knock ESPN, but they check the box because they're like, hey, we have the undefeated. It's here. Now all of a sudden they're on TV. They've got a weekly 2-hour radio show
Mm-hmm.
and TV show. And I'm like, is this what had to happen? Did you have to have like this in the holster? Just look kind of like waiting to say, okay, I got it.
And now let's launch it.
And now let's launch it. Because it's that website, I mean, that microsite has always been about race,
Yep.
culture, politics, sports all intersecting together.
Yep.
But I think just to go back on what you said, it was totally sage in create your own outlet, hire the writers that can talk about the culture, and finding that having that support base, having that fan base to support it,
Mm-hmm.
and make if you got to donate or if you gotta fund it. I mean, this is no different than having like the crazy thing is, Danny, I saw hashtag defund NPR, and I'm like, these people are stupid. I'm like, defund NPR, National Public Radio, is funded by its listeners. So it's there's just a lot of silliness that's going on out there. But I think supporting each other, whatever the specific endeavor is, I think it's a great idea, and it's
It's it's well past. It's way past it.
yeah, it's totally overdue. It's totally overdue. We'll go to some NBA players are not sure of post COVID-19 restart plan. I think I should not sure of the post COVID-19 restart plan. Um, so Danny, we know the headliners. We know all the big players, the power brokers in the NBA. But why is there so much noise about this restart plan? And it just seems like there's a lot of trepidation from not the key players, kind of like the second and third tier players.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You have cases of COVID spiking everywhere in Florida. Okay. One of the things about the return of the NBA is that, and it's not talked about as much, is the fact of the people who are working at Disney are able to leave and go home to their families every single night. You have all these cases of COVID in especially Florida happening, and the Disney employees are not being told to stay on property.
Mm,
That is a scary proposition because guess what? If they can leave the property and go home to their families or go to the grocery store or go anywhere else,
right.
go grab something to eat, they have a high risk of catching COVID. So why are players being told to stay in the bubble?
Right.
I mean, in the last week, Orlando City's women's soccer team, Orlando City Pride, they were headed to Salt Lake City to start the women's professional soccer league this weekend. They were the first professional sports league in the States to go back.
Mm,
On Monday, they're ready to go. By Monday afternoon, they had pulled out of the tournament. 6 of the girls caught COVID on the team and 4 people in the coaching staff and front office.
wow.
Orlando City had to pull their entire team from the tournament.
Mm,
So it doesn't look good. So guess what? Now you got to worry about the men's soccer team because what happened? They practice in the same facility. So these NBA players are looking at, okay, you got everything going on with social injustice, and guess what? COVID-19 has kind of taken away the whole social injustice potential movement among players because guess what? Now safety is involved in it. Players are worried about, what's going on for the culture, and also players are worried about their safety because guess what? Not everybody's able to take it. Like I said, we just had Nikola Jokic come back yesterday, test positive for COVID. Malcolm Brogdon, of this recording, had just came out saying he has COVID-19 and expect to rejoin his teammates.
yes.
There was a report by Woj saying there are 4 players on a playoff team that was not named that have contracted COVID since since the pandemic.
Wow.
You don't think as fast as we get these results that people are now going to see the results get turned over faster? I'm waiting for the first outbreak. I don't want it to happen, but it seems like it's just going to happen. It hasn't missed a professional sport yet. So
Mm,
if I'm a player in this situation, with the exception of Trevor Ariza, I'm looking real skeptical about going back as well. You know, why do you think the NBA and the Player Association created the clause yesterday that's going to pay players in case they end up with a career-ending injury due to COVID, or as Jared Dudley would say, hurt themselves trying to get themselves in a playoff mood ready to go. These guys are going to have to get 2 or 3 exhibitions and then turn themselves into playoff mode after being off for 3 months. This isn't the smartest plan.
no, it's not. It's not.
They,
But it's all driven by the network and cable money, correct?
I mean, the players know that if they don't play, it's already going to be a shrunken cap next year. Can you imagine how much the cap would be shrunk for these players trying to become free agents over the next 2, 3 years if they
Right.
can't play?
Right.
You know,
Wow.
they got to get back. Like you said, owners are billionaires, but they're billionaires for a reason.
Mm, I didn't think that because already with the issue with China, so that's going to shrink the cap.
They already did.
Ah, wow.
I mean, you have to think about this. When Andre Drummond decides to opt in a contract to stay in Cleveland, he he stayed in Cleveland. I know it's $27 million,
Right.
but he decided to stay in Cleveland because he know that money he thought he was going to get is not going to be out there because the cap is going to shrink again.
Mm, gotcha.
So staying in Cleveland is better than being a free agent. That should tell you something right then and there.
Gotcha. Okay. I guess the final thing I have for you is why is all the ESPN talent leaving for Fox Sports?
Because Fox Sports didn't spend all their money on the salary cap. See, if in the world of fantasy football, if this was the auction league, ESPN spent all their money on the top-rated players and left themselves with nothing left. There's always that one guy in fantasy football in a fantasy auction draft that kind of lays in the weeds, maybe bids on a player or two, and then at the end they have all the money left to get all the players that are left. So you might not have all the A-listers, but you got a whole bunch of B players And guess what? B players can win fantasy championships just as much as A players do, because you'll have more B players than A players. So that's what's happening. ESPN has used whatever they're going to spend on talent and spent a lot of it on some of the higher end talent, and won't have the ability to retain some of the, like I said, the middle card people, the ones that really make the network. Stars are going to be stars, but just like basketball championship teams or any championship team, star players will get you there. Role players and the secondary players will help you win championships. They're just as important as a star player, because a guy can go for 50, but someone's got to score the rest of the points. So they're going to Fox because there's money there's money in room.
Spoken like a future GM. I will tell you that much. Danny, if you can give us once again, let us know where we can find your, you know, your shows. Where, is there like a web page, or is there like a contact us or about us page where you provide like, hey, I'm available on this day doing this, that day doing that?
I'm gonna start doing that. No, you can find me on Twitter at Danny number three Thompson. That's DANNY the number three Thompson on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, through the various sites I'm on. So, as far as TV shows wide goes, you have Beyond the Buzzer Mondays and Thursday nights, 9 p.m., 9 to 10 on Zingo TV, which is channel 198, otherwise known as I-95 Sports. You can catch me Tuesday nights on I-95 Sports and Zingo TV, as well as Facebook for all the shows. Myself and Deshaun Tate, the basketball savant, aka captain of Team LSU, which is Light Skin United, by the way, talking hoops from 9 to 10 on Tuesdays. And then Sunday nights, myself and my main man, Mr. Controversy, Raphael Haynes, we do a show called Top Tens, where we just take the top 10 on anything in sports and we debate on it. You can find my work as well as aroundtheassociation.com. And today I got the shirt on today, the 3-Point Conversion Radio, which is 3pointconversion.com as well, too.
Okay. Promoting all your outlets and everything else like that. As
Got
always,
to.
got to thank you. This is Ted Hicks at Late Night Parents.